You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
Welcome back. I'm now joined in studio by Kevin Breen of the Southeast Learning Centre. Kevin, start by telling me a bit about your own career to date, please.
Hi, Karl. Yeah, I was born and raised in Dublin. I received my Bachelor's of Science degree in the DIT in Dublin in mathematics and physics. Following that, I went to the DCU, well, it was then the NIHE in Northside Dublin, where I studied for 2 years a theoretical physics problem solved by advanced mathematical differential equations.
Sounds interesting. Where did the interest in maths come from?
Well, I've always been interested in science, and I've always been interested in the way science can be used to find out about the world that we live in. And so during the course of my degree, it was a physics and a mathematics degree, and I found more and more that the assumptions that were used to solve physical problems were a bit too vague, and I became more and more focused on the core mathematical truth propositions.
Once you had the Masters in Mathematics behind you, you started your career in what?
Well, actually, I didn't start my career that soon. Immediately what I did was I saw an opportunity to leave Ireland. Actually, it was during the recession in 1989 when I graduated. I had an opportunity to go and live in Japan, which I grabbed, and I taught English for a year, actually in the south of Japan. But then I received an offer from a company called Omron Corporation, which is a very large Japanese automation company, and I went to live in Osaka in Japan for 4 years, and I worked in the international advertising division.
Did you become fluent in the language over there?
Yeah, I actively studied Japanese for 5 years, and I worked and lived in Japanese. The reason I became fluent in Japanese, the reason why I wanted to become fluent in Japanese was because first of all, it was a challenge for me. I wasn't fluent in it. I was never really fluent in the language before. This was a perfect opportunity for me to further my prospects, because I was actually living in Japan, working with Japanese people, and it seemed like a perfect opportunity to further my prospects. So circumstances changed for me, and in 1996 I decided to relocate back to Ireland. So I came back and I started looking around at what I wanted to do. I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do, but I wanted to keep up the mathematics, so I actually taught back in the colleges where I graduated. I taught maths to final year students in DIT and also in DCU. Then I saw there was an opportunity for using mathematics in industry itself, and I went back to college again to study for 1 year, and I did a postgraduate diploma in Internet Systems Development, studying languages like Java, Perl, did some cryptography, which is the mathematical Internet security protocols. I also did some HTML web development. Around this time, I learned of an up-and-coming Irish internet security company called Baltimore Technologies.
Interesting company. Tell me about that.
Baltimore Technologies was a small company of around a dozen employees who saw an opportunity to secure the internet using digital certification.
Dermot Desmond was behind that company, and it ended up becoming very successful.
Dermot Desmond was behind that company, as was Fran Rooney, who some people out there may know of. Initially the company had about a dozen people. It soon blossomed into a company of around 50. In 1999 it acquired a company called Zergo, which was a British competitor company, allowing it access to global markets. And then it listed on the London Stock Exchange in 1999 as well. I joined the company initially as because I had the unique skill set of, the mathematics, the teacher training, and the Japanese language. I was brought in as a strategic employee in terms of gaining access to the Japanese market. In early 1999, just after I got married, I relocated with my wife to Tokyo and set up the Japanese leg of Baltimore Technologies. We worked in conjunction with our business partner, which we had set up there. We soon acquired them and other competitors, and we grew that.
And then the bubble burst.
Yeah, Baltimore was a really successful company for a number of years, but ultimately the dot-com bubble burst, and with my wife and my newborn child, we relocated back to Ireland, and the company pretty much fell apart and is now long gone. I worked for about a year in Dublin in a similar kind of company, but then with the oncoming birth of my second child, Charlotte, we decided that we would leave Dublin and the rat race that was there and relocate to Wexford.
And then the South East Learning Centre was born in 2003, celebrating 10 years in business. What does the business do?
The South East Learning Centre provides additional tuition in mathematics, strictly speaking, just mathematics for Leaving Cert, Junior Cert and third level students. I
heard comments being made by bosses of IDA companies in recent months to say that they had major complaints in relation to the graduates, the quality of graduates coming out of the colleges across the country from a mathematical skill set perspective.
Well, I can well understand that. There's been a steady decline in the level of mathematics in students' heads over the number of years that I've been looking at it in the past 30 years. These problems are starting when the kids are probably in their infancy, and whereas in the past, when you and I were kids, when mathematics was drilled into us at the early age that we could actually assimilate large amounts of information, I think that's been relaxed now, and so we have these problems of where primary school issues are becoming manifest at Leaving Cert and Junior Cert level.
The mathematical curriculum has changed in second level education in recent times, both at Junior and Leaving Cert. Tell me a bit about that. Yes,
there's been a new impetus called Project Maths, which is it's an attempt to make mathematics more, shall we say, accessible to students, for whatever that means. Make it more relevant for the 21st century. In terms of the actual core subject, however, I find that it's actually becoming more vague and more wordy, and a lot of the questions are becoming more, well, let's say less mathematical and more self-opinion required.
So are we moving away from the likes of equations and more towards stats and probability?
Well, we are moving, certainly, I think there's too much emphasis on statistics and probability. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but they have their place. There is not really a move away from equations, but there's been a lot of some of the topics that are required, for example, for third level, namely vectors and some of the more difficult areas of integral calculus, have been discarded. The problem with that is, well, it might be easier for the kids, but the problem is when they get to college, if they're going to do anything scientific, they are still there as third level requirements. And so not only will they have to do a lot of new stuff, but stuff that they would have. Well, not only will they have to do new stuff, but they'll also have to do the stuff that they didn't do when they were in second level, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's often said that maths is the language of science. So are we going to see, it becoming more difficult for college students to get through their particular curriculum when they go into third level institutions in times to come?
Absolutely. Many third level institutions I know of are actually providing remedial mathematics classes for students when they graduate from their Leaving Cert, because the Leaving Certs that they are getting is just not up to par. It
seems that there's no joined up thinking here between the department, the second level education system and that of the third level education system.
Well, the jury is still out on that. I mean, let's see. Put it this way: the third level requirements are still always going to be there. If you're going to drive across a bridge, you want to make sure it's been designed by engineers and not by somebody who got a pass Leaving Cert and has a degree based upon a dodgy Leaving Cert qualification. So
if you were put in place today by the Department of Education to restructure how mathematics is taught based on, let's say, from primary level up, what would you do to change it?
Well, I tried to design a syllabus whereby we could kind of cultivate some kind of critical thinking among students, and not just accept stuff because they're told that it's true. See, mathematics is all about proving and verifying and affirming stuff. It's not about belief. It's not a belief system. Whereas if you want to use you can use mathematics actually to prove some very, very interesting topics about the world that we live in. And for that reason, it's inherently interesting and it's inherently valuable for society as a whole.
We're hearing, every day of the week that class sizes are increasing across the country, both at primary and second level. Is that having much of a negative impact on how maths has been taught?
Yeah, it has a very, very negative impact, especially on those students, specifically for those students who are in any way falling behind. It's very difficult to raise a question in a class if you're one of 25 students and you've kind of fallen behind a bit. It's not conducive.
We're constantly hearing from the government that they want to move Ireland to a knowledge-based economy. Now, taking such an approach to such a hierarchical subject as maths, do you think that we are moving in the right direction?
I'm not too confident that we are. I think mathematics is there for a reason. It's difficult for a reason. It describes real world problems which are inherently difficult. I don't think you can create a knowledge economy by reducing the amount of mathematics that's known.
Let's focus on this from a business perspective. What negative impact is this going to have for businesses in future times?
Yeah, by reducing the emphasis on mathematics, you're actually reducing the amount of focus that children have on analytical thought and solving problems and looking at a problem from a different angle, lateral thinking, dicing and slicing a problem, putting it back together. What's the best way forward? There's a certain thought process that everyone needs to do questions like that. And, if you're going to start making things too easy, well, then problems are going to become too difficult to solve. As you know yourself every day as you solve problems in what you do, Karl, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in relation to your own business, as I said earlier in the show, you're in business 10 years this year. How has the recession been for your business?
Well, the recession has been a real learning experience. But what I have found out, for example, 2006, 2007 were great years, I think, for every business. I think a rising tide will lift a lot of boats. Everything went a little bit pear-shaped come the recession, and I think there was a general panic across the country. I mean, people were just cutting off all sorts of expenditure. At the same time, you had a lot of people giving, for example, maths grinds who really shouldn't have been doing that, and possibly eating into the market. But what I found is, regardless of the amount of money in people's pockets, I think parents will always find the resources necessary to further their children's education. So once the recession hit in 2007, 2008, even 2009, there was a noticeable decrease in the amount of students that were looking for help. But I have to say as well that now, despite that, our numbers are excellent, and I'm probably having the best year in 6 years. I think it's just down to the fact that when push comes to shove, if a child's education is at stake, parents will find the resources necessary to help their kids in any way they can.
I know, Kevin, that your own area of expertise is mathematics, but from a Southeast Learning Centre perspective, have you ever considered adding other subjects to your suite of grinds that you're providing?
Yes, mathematics is my only passion in terms of the curriculum. Yeah, the plan going forward, as I say, at the moment now is to look at other areas, core subjects like English, some of the European languages, possibly Chinese, physics as well. And what I'm currently doing is I'm in discussion with some other experts in these fields with a view to widening our product portfolio.
Kevin, have you done anything to embrace technology to widen your geographical scope?
Well, Karl, we're looking at the moment at a model whereby we would have our tutorials online so that students would not have to be in the same geographical location in order to benefit. For example, for whatever reason, if a student can't make it into class, or if it's a student maybe not even in the same town, with the right access controls online, a student could see and interact with myself or a similar tutor online in real time, or replay it back over and over again at their convenience, and get the same service that they would normally get by coming into the Southeast Learning Centre. But for now, it's just chalk, talk and walk.
Well, Kevin, it's been a very insightful interview. Many thanks for coming in to speak to us, and I wish you continued success with the Southeast Learning Centre. Here at Business Matters, we want to hear your thoughts on the programme. You can contact the team by emailing businessmatters@southeastradio.ie. For more information on today's show, you can follow me on Twitter @Karl Fitzpatrick or visit karlfitzpatrick.ie. We're almost at closing time here at Business Matters, but before we go, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my production team, my guests for their contribution, and especially you for listening. Join me again next Saturday morning when I'll be speaking to more of the business leaders that you want to know more about. But in the meantime, enjoy the remainder of your bank holiday weekend.
You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.